Good morning and welcome. My name is Constable Stephen Spencer, Public Information Officer with Winnipeg Police Service. Today we're excited to unveil our 2025 Roadwatch Drug-Impaired Driving Enforcement Project and Don't Drive High awareness campaign. We're pleased to be joined by Manitoba's Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Honorable Matt Wiebe, Vice President of Mothers Against Drinking and Driving Winnipeg, Tony Ranella, Manitoba Public Insurance Vice President, Maria Campos, and to provide the details of today's announcements, I'd like to introduce the Winnipeg Police Service Impaired Driving Countermeasures Coordinator, Patrol Sergeant Stefan Fontaine, and invite him up to conduct today's briefing.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. As the holidays come to an end and the new year begins, I'm here to announce the start of our next Roadwatch Impaired Driving Enforcement campaign. Now, this particular campaign will focus in part on the detection of drivers under the influence of cannabis. Although alcohol impairment continues to be the leading cause of impaired driving offenses, cannabis impaired driving ranks as the second highest contributor. And as the stats indicate, drug impaired drivers continue to pose serious risks on our roadways. Our enforcement campaign is also supported by an education and an awareness campaign, as you see with some of our billboards. And as you see, you'll soon see with one of our little PSA video announcements. This year in particular, I want to talk about some of the different cannabis products that are available. Namely cannabis edibles. So according to Liquor, Gaming and Cannabis Authority of Manitoba, the sale of edibles has nearly doubled since the legalization of cannabis back in 2018. Now, the concern with edibles is that they affect people differently when you compare it to smoking the product. What's important to remember is that when ingesting edibles, the effects take longer to kick in, and they tend to last a lot longer when you compare it to the effects of smoking cannabis. As a matter of fact, they could linger as long as up to or more than 12 hours. So those effects could very well be leading you into the next day. And that's obviously concerning if the next day involves you driving anywhere at any point. Our message is always simple. Don't drive high. It's dangerous, detectable, and definitely illegal. If you choose to take cannabis edibles, avoid driving for at least 12 hours. We want to make sure that the drugs have truly cleared out of your system. Now, further to our awareness campaign, as I mentioned, we've come up with a short public service announcement to help reiterate our point. So let's have a look at that right now.
Edibles and driving later? Are you high?
That's hours away.
Are you high?
That's hours away.
High.
Don't drive high. It's dangerous, detectable, and definitely illegal.
Short and sweet, but to the point. Edibles will affect your ability to drive, and they will do it in a particular way that is long-lasting. We'd like to remind all motorists that impaired driving is not just a concern through the holidays, but it's a year-long enforcement effort that involves both the Winnipeg Police, but also everyone else should have their part in ensuring that you're making the safe decision not to drive while under the influence of any drug or alcohol. We all have a role to play in road safety, and we'd like to thank our partners and all the motorists who choose to avoid driving impaired and to ensure they find a safe way home. Thank you, and I'd like to now welcome the Honorable Matt Weeb to make a few remarks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to join all of you here today to deliver an important message about the dangers of impaired driving in Manitoba. Our government takes road safety very seriously. We take it seriously because we understand the consequences of drug-impaired driving are tragic and are entirely preventable. Every year, impaired driving leaves behind a trail of death, injury, and heartbreak. The families, friends, and communities of loved ones are never the same again, all because someone made the selfish decision to get behind the wheel while impaired by alcohol, cannabis, or other drugs. Last year, our government took strong action and introduced legislation to strengthen licensing consequences for convicted impaired drivers. We're committed to taking this kind of concrete action to protect our communities and to improve road safety. These changes reinforce that there are real and serious consequences for choosing to drive impaired and ensure that drivers who injure or kill are ultimately kept off our roads. Manitobans deserve to feel safe on our roads. As the Minister of Justice, I'm proud to support the Winnipeg Police Service today in their campaign to make our roads safer, and I want to thank them for their commitment to protecting our communities and their leadership in launching the Don't Drive High enforcement initiative. This project demonstrates our collective commitment to end drug-impaired driving here in Manitoba. While alcohol remains the leading cause of impaired driving offenses, cannabis impairment is now the second highest contributor. This is a reality that we cannot ignore. Every impaired driver represents a potential tragedy waiting to happen, and we're putting them on notice with the Don't Drive High Road Watch Enforcement Initiative. But this campaign is more than just about enforcement. It's also about education. Our message is clear. If you plan to consume cannabis, including edibles, driving should not be, under any circumstances, be a part of your plan. Wait at least 12 hours or choose an alternative way to get home. I want to thank the Winnipeg Police Service and Manitoba Public Insurance for their work in working towards making sure this campaign reaches every Manitoban, especially our young drivers who are learning to navigate our roads. Our government is committed to working closely with our partners to make sure impaired driving is understood to be completely unacceptable in our society. I want to thank, in particular, those in law enforcement for keeping our roads safe. Our government will continue to support you in the important work that you do every single day to keep Manitobans safe. So let us work together to spread the message, prevent impaired driving, and save lives. Remember, don't drive high. It's just not worth the risk. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tony Ranella. I'm the Vice President of MAD Winnipeg, and I'm here on behalf of MAD Canada, along with the local Manitoba chapters, to express our support for Winnipeg Police Services in their enforcement and awareness regarding the drug-impaired driving campaign. It's evident that drug-impaired driving has been and continues to be a growing concern. Additionally, there are numerous misconceptions within the public regarding the effects of drug use, especially cannabis, and the impact it has on driving skills. Research indicates that cannabis does have an impact on driving performance and leads to decreased concentration, diminished attention span, slower reaction times, and altered perceptions of time and distance. Furthermore, there is a common belief that law enforcement cannot detect cannabis or other drugs. In reality, police use oral fluid testing devices and have specially trained officers who are drug recognition experts. We need continuous education and awareness, and campaigns like this are vital in dispelling these beliefs surrounding drug-impaired driving. MAD Canada wishes to extend our gratitude to Winnipeg Police Services for their dedication to this campaign and wish to remind everyone that driving under the influence of drugs is both dangerous and illegal. Law enforcement is consistently vigilant in identifying drug-impaired drivers, and they possess the necessary tools and training to detect offenders. The police are invaluable partners in MAD Canada's mission to eradicate impaired driving. They bolster the efforts of MAD Canada and its chapters and volunteers, many of whom are victims and survivors themselves. Throughout the year, MAD Canada and its local chapters proudly launch various awareness campaigns to educate the public about the perils of driving impaired and provide support and resources to victims and survivors. Each year in Manitoba, we receive unwavering support from the Winnipeg Police Services, Manitoba Public Insurance, Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries Corporation for our campaigns. MAD Canada is here to say we stand with you, beside you, as you do us. We are grateful and thankful for your support. The more we all do to prevent impaired driving, the more lives we will save. In closing, I urge everyone to commit to never driving impaired. If you are out driving and decide to consume cannabis, other drugs, or alcohol, please do not get behind the wheel and drive. The risks are never worth it, not to you, not to your passengers, and especially not to the innocent drivers on the road with you. On a personal note, I am a survivor. My mother was tragically killed by a drunk driver in 1968 when I was 10 years old. My family and I went to visit my grandparents who lived in Wolseley. We were coming home and crossing Portage Avenue, traveling north on Sherbourne. A drunk driver was heading west on Portage Avenue, traveling at over 100 kilometers per hour. He drove through a red light and T-boned us on the passenger side where my mother was sitting in the front seat. I was sitting behind her. We were almost home. We lived up the street on Sherbourne. The profound impact of losing my mother at such a young age changed my life and the life of my family instantly and forever. The impact continues to affect us 57 years later. For me, it has been a lifelong burden of wishing and wondering what life would be like had she survived. My message is clear. If you plan on going out and decide to consume alcohol or drugs, please make sure you plan a safe ride home. It doesn't take long to organize or hire a taxi, an Uber, have a friend or family member pick you up and drive you home. Such a simple decision can prevent a lifetime of grief and heartache. On behalf of MAD Canada, thank you once again for having me here today.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. I want to extend my gratitude to the Winnipeg Police Service for hosting this important event and inviting Manitoba Public Insurance to be here alongside the Honorable Minister Matt Wiebe and Mad Winnipeg as part of the conversation about road safety and drug-impaired driving prevention. Manitoba Public Insurance is committed to improving road safety, and our partnership with Winnipeg Police Service is a key part of that work. Our latest collaboration is why we're here today. MPI is a proud supporter of the Don't Drive High campaign through our enhanced enforcement program. The program, which has been in place at MPI since 1998, focuses on addressing high-risk driving behaviors such as impaired driving, distraction, speeding, and not wearing seatbelts. The funding we provide enables law enforcement agencies like WPS to dedicate additional resources to making Manitoba roads safer for everyone. This is exactly what this campaign on drug-impaired driving here today is about. We know from MPI's data that drug-impaired driving is one of the leading causes of collisions in Manitoba. In 2024, nearly 1 in 3 fatal motor vehicle collisions involved impaired driving. This is a stark reminder of the preventable tragedies that occur when someone chooses to drive while under the influence. As we've heard, education is a major focus of this campaign, and for good reason. Many people are unaware, as you've heard, of how cannabis edibles affect the body differently than smoked cannabis. When consumed, edibles can take hours to reach their full effect, and the impaired effects can last 12 hours or more. Understanding the prevalence and the need for more education about this topic, I'm proud to share that MPI has also launched its own drug-impaired driving awareness campaign to help address this important issue. From now until February 23rd, our campaign builds on the same messages that driving and edibles should never mix, and uses striking visuals and relatable scenarios to connect with drivers. Our campaign materials will be visible across Manitoba on digital billboards and on social media, as well as 2 distinct versions of paid digital ads aimed at 2 target markets: 18 to 30-year-old recreational users and 31 to 50-year-olds using cannabis for recreation and medicinal purposes. Our ads emphasize the serious consequences of impaired driving. They also highlight the unique risks of edibles, helping drivers understand that what may seem harmless can have dangerous and lasting effects on their ability to drive safely. By combining education with enforcement, we are aiming to prevent impaired driving before it happens and keep unsafe drivers off our roads. The goal we all share is for Manitobans to understand this simple message: impaired driving is preventable, and we all have the ability to make the right choice. Whether it's by choosing a designated driver, planning a safe ride home, or starting conversations with loved ones about the dangers of driving impaired, your actions can save lives. I want to thank our partners, including Winnipeg Police Service, MAD, and the province of Manitoba for their unwavering dedication to road safety. Together, through education, enforcement, and collaboration, we can make Manitobans' roads safer for everyone. Thank you for your time today and for supporting this critical initiative. Let's all do our part to ensure that every Manitoban can get home safely. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have one question, just in terms of the rollout of the program. Will it be similar to the Check Stop program where every person is getting tested? Or will it just be kind of the police choosing if they believe that person isn't?
So no. Mandatory alcohol screening is specific to alcohol. There isn't an equivalent mandatory drug screening test or demand. So the officers will have to form the suspicion that the particular driver has consumed cannabis recently. And obviously we've pulled them over. We know that they are driving, but there's a few elements that need to be satisfied before we proceed with demanding them conduct a drug screening test.
This falls under the same thing as, impaired, immediate roadside prohibitions, all the same stuff applies to drug.
No.
No.
Again, immediate roadside prohibitions are, that's kind of a release option as it pertains to the use of an approved screening device which detects alcohol. So IRP, only alcohol. Now the consequence, there are consequences for obviously a positive result on a cannabis and or in this case cocaine. It detects either two of those drugs. There would be administrative sanctions as it pertains to driver's license, just not under the same umbrella as the IRP or immediate roadside prohibition. But you will get an immediate driver's license suspension, starting at a minimum of 3 days.
When would criminal charges come into play?
So if we believe the person is truly an impaired driver and that substance is drugs, they would be placed under arrest and we would conduct further evaluation either by a drug recognition expert or a blood draw, which would then be analyzed to determine the content of and the concentration of cannabis in this case, and to see if we're dealing with a potential per se limit offense. So they're just having too much of THC in someone's blood while they're driving is an offense in and of itself.
As in the process, a driver is found under suspicion of being impaired with cannabis. What exactly is the process from there talking to the police, then taking the test, and
Yeah, so this particular test we do roadside. So this device would be in our police cruiser, or depending on the scenario, we may have our check stop van out. But ultimately, we have a little test kit. We obtain a sample of oral fluid by swabbing the mouth. And then that swab gets introduced into the analyzer, which will give us either a positive or negative. And when it's positive is where things will, for sure, you have a driver's license suspension. That's one of the provincial sanctions that occur right away because of testing positive. But then the investigation would proceed from there as to whether or not it will go down a criminal route or simply stay in an administrative sanction role.
are there any quantities to quantify the numbers, what concentrations of THC really basically result in
A positive, certainly, yeah. So the per se limit or the allowable or the limit in which the offense of driving over the limit occurs is when you have 5 nanograms of THC present in one's blood. This particular device, again, we're testing oral fluid, but the cutoff is much higher at 25 nanograms. Again, the cutoff being so high ensures that we truly have someone who has recently consumed and that the amount of THC is in fairly a large number to ensure or have the likelihood that if we were to test their blood, that we would likely have an offense of a per se limit.
for the machine itself? Is there a difference between smoking the product and edibles itself?
No, THC in its form is the same, whether it's smoked or ingested. The big difference, and that's kind of what our campaign is today, is the potential effects of consuming the products in either method. And smoking, you will feel the effects almost immediately, with peaking within about the half-hour mark, and then lasting anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. Again, it's different with everyone, but the edibles, because you're ingesting it like food, it takes a longer to feel the effects, but it also lasts much longer. So the impairing effects could be hours and hours as when you compare to smoking the product. But ultimately, it gets deposited into your oral fluid or oral cavity the same way.
Any questions for other guests?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.